With that, Representative Macklin, two-year bill. You want to move?
Thank you, Chair Baker. I would like to make a motion to move House File 3545 to the General Register. And I do actually have a DE amendment.
Please explain your amendment.
So the amendment, as it is to, it removes the authority for the commissioner to choose a more efficient standard. It removes the requirement for the 2038 Residential Energy Code to achieve the 70% reduction in annual net energy consumption compared to the 2006 Energy Use Index for Minnesota. Part of the idea behind this is a lot of conversations, but really comes down to home affordability. So, Mr. Chair, if we can move the DE.
Sounds good. Members, any questions for the author to get the bill in the shape he'd like to have it today? Nope. Seeing none, all those in favor to approve of the DE amendment signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? As amended, House File 3545 is in front of us, members. Representative Macklin, two-year bill, as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So as I was saying, like, where this really came from is when this passed a few years ago, the original bill, and then we started hearing how much this is going to add to the cost. And when you sit in the Housing Committee and all we talk about, Chair Igo and Chair Howard, is the lack of affordability of homes. And the simple fact that in 1 year, members, 1 year, the median age for a first-time home buyer went up by 2, went from 38 to 40 years old. Many people in my age bracket, we all bought where many of us bought our first homes when we were in our early 20s, which is no longer feasible. And as we see more and more of this coming through, everything we do affects the cost of housing. And it's one of the greatest wealth building tools we have as young people growing up. And all I see is, especially being in the trades, is it's becoming harder and harder to obtain that very tool to create wealth. So with that, I will move to all these testifiers, because we do have a few, and I know we're trying to be mindful of our time, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Representative Macklin. To that, again, I want to welcome Ms. Peterson to the table, and then on deck will be Marcy, if you would come and be ready to come in. Please introduce yourself and proceed.
Mr. Chair and members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today. My name is Angela Peterson. I'm the Codes Program Manager for our Center for Energy and the Environment and an active participant in Minnesota's Energy Code development process. CEE is a nonprofit organization whose core mission is to develop and deploy effective energy solutions that strengthen the economy and improve the environment. I am here today to respectfully speak in opposition to House File 3545. While we understand that affordability is a key concern driving this discussion, and housing affordability is a significant challenge that we must address, energy codes are not driving the rise in housing costs. In fact, Minnesota's residential energy code hasn't been updated since 2015, yet house prices have risen approximately 77% during that time, demonstrating that market actors outside of the energy code are driving the rise in housing costs. As we continue to face housing shortages in Minnesota, some have cited concerns about the impact of updated energy codes on housing starts. Recent research published by ACEEE found that new home construction in states adopting updated energy codes continued to track national housing trends, indicating that stronger codes do not slow down home building. Additionally, a home is not affordable if it is not affordable to live in. While many Minnesota homes are already being built to better than code efficiency standards due to market demand, energy codes ensure that all new homes become more affordable by locking in lower monthly utility bills for the first homeowner and every future occupant. When looking at the expected next residential energy code, a slipstream study found that energy efficiency upgrades would pay for themselves in utility savings in 5 to 9 years and save homeowners between $17,500 and $37,000 over 30 years, depending on which part of the state one lives in. Just 2 years ago, the legislature established clear direction for residential energy codes by mandating 3-year code cycles and setting long-term efficiency goals. That process is now underway with significant stakeholder participation from builders, industry experts, nonprofits, and state agencies. Reversing course now would disrupt that process and delay progress towards building homes that are more affordable for Minnesota families to own and live in. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Peterson, for showing everybody how this is done. Way to be on time. Thank you very much. All right, next up, and thank you for that. And we're going to save questions, members, till the end of all testifiers as well. Marcy, if you could come up, please introduce yourself and continue. And on deck is Mr. John Kren. Please come forward and be ready to go. Thank you, and welcome, and introduce yourself.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Chair and members. My name is Marcy Conrad Nutt. I'm an architect and member of the American Institute of Architects, Minnesota. I have practiced for 25 years and own my own firm that specializes in deep energy retrofits and new construction of homes. Because of AIA Minnesota's commitment to advancing building science and designing affordable homes for all, we must testify in opposition to this bill. Minnesotans understand the importance of investing in a good coat, one that is warm enough for our brutal winters, is airtight to keep out cold winds, yet permeable enough to let out moisture when needed. When applied to homes, these concepts become building science and can reduce energy use, protect structures from moisture damage, and add real-world comfort. Our code is currently on the path of moving from jacket to coat. But because current code is too often used as a ceiling rather than the floor that it is, Minnesotans can be shocked that their new code-built home is drafty and expensive to heat. They are given a jacket when they desire more than this. Minnesota's mixed climate of hot, humid summers and cold, brutal winters is difficult on our buildings and our occupants. We support the regular updating of energy code based on the latest IECC, but the climate zones are broad and change between those zones is small. It is imperative that local experts are allowed to weigh in. A specific example is that the latest 24 version allows 4 different walls to be built, notably the exact same options that are also available in Fayetteville, Arkansas. One option is a 2x6 wall filled with insulation and R5 continuous insulation. However, moisture models of that wall in our climate raise concerns that really should be at least an R10. We must have the ability for our state's experts to engage in healthy debate and make necessary adjustments. This bill would eliminate that ability, and we should not move backwards, and I thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your testimony today. Mr. Kren, if you'd come forward, please, and then on deck is Jared Johnson. Mr. Kren, welcome, and thank you, and please introduce yourself and proceed with your testimony.
Thank you. My name is John Kren. I'm a volunteer with the Sierra Club. I oppose House File 3545. We need to keep building homes that meet the latest standards for energy efficiency. We need to build with the future in mind, not the past. More efficient homes and buildings will cut our greenhouse gas emissions that are causing climate change and will save homeowners money. Climate change caused by fossil fuels is resulting in extreme weather events all over the planet. Those events are upsetting people's lives and costing hundreds of billions of dollars of damage, including major costs here in Minnesota. We know that's happening in Minnesota because the insurance companies are leaving Minnesota due to these severe weather events. And the insurance companies that remain are raising their premiums or putting restrictions on their Minnesota policies to limit payouts. Putting in the right insulation and other energy efficiency steps in a home or building is best done while the home is being built. I have put energy related changes to my home, which is older, and it's more expensive, more time consuming, more problematical than when you do it when the home is being built. New homes are going to be around for 100 years or more. It's just common sense to make them more energy efficient at the outset, which will save homeowners money as they pay for that energy. Minnesota is not like Texas or other states that have abundant fossil fuels. We lose money to other states or countries when we spend money on fossil fuels. By making our homes and buildings more energy efficient, Minnesota comes out ahead economically. Minnesota needs to continue to be a leader on this issue and others related to climate change. That leadership is more important now than ever.
Thank you, Mr. Kern, very much for your testimony. Next up is Jared Johnson. If you could come forward, and on deck would be Mr. Fowler. If you could be in the waiting wing on the on-deck circle, if you will. Mr. Johnson, welcome. Please proceed.
Thank you, committee members. Thanks for the opportunity to testify today. On behalf of Theus Alliance Minnesota, I want to express our opposition to HF 3545. We are a nonprofit volunteer organization representing architects, builders, and energy professionals who support high-performance building standards that improve housing affordability, comfort, and long-term energy savings. First, I just want to point out that energy codes and energy efficiency measures are not a primary contributor to housing unaffordability. It's often noted that Minnesota has some of the highest single-family home prices in the region. However, Minnesota has also had essentially the same residential energy code as Wisconsin and Iowa since 2015, while Illinois adopted a more efficient code in 2023 and still maintains a lower median home price than Minnesota. This suggests that high home prices do not correlate with stronger energy codes. Research consistently points instead to factors such as land costs, local land use regulations, high interest rates, and labor and material shortages as the primary drivers of housing prices. Second, I also wanted to point out that stronger energy codes do not result in reduced housing production. Several studies, including a 2025 multi-state analysis from the American Council for an Energy Efficient Economy, show that construction levels generally remain consistent with national trends after new energy codes are adopted. And finally, repealing the current code acceleration process would discard years of stakeholder work and technical review conducted by the Department of Labor and Industry and its advisory groups. For anyone concerned about efficient governance and the responsible stewardship of public resources, such a move would represent a substantial waste of time and public resources already committed by the department and its partners. For these reasons, again, we urge the committee to reject HF 3545. Thank you for your time and consideration.
And thank you, Mr. Johnson, for your testimony today. Mr. Fowler, please come forward. And then Mr. Erickson will be on deck. Welcome to the table. Mr. Fowler, please introduce yourself and proceed.
Thank you very much. Thanks to the co-chairs and the committee members. My name is Eric Fowler, he, him, his pronouns. I'm the Director of Building Performance at Fresh Energy. We're a nonpartisan energy policy nonprofit that has engaged in energy codes since our founding, and I also served on the latest residential energy code technical advisory group at the Department of Labor and Industry, and we're opposing HF 3545 and the DE1, which would raise energy bills, increase grid strain, reduce safety and resilience, slow our climate progress, and restrict the department from writing the best codes for our state. I'll be brief to respect time, but I'm available to elaborate on any of this. In 2024, this legislature made a promise to renters and owners of new homes. You will be comfortable and safe in your home without absurd energy bills, even during temperature extremes, and even if you lose power. The energy code doesn't just save money. It protects lives by reducing air pollution and by adding hours of safety in emergencies. In a winter power outage, indoor temperatures become unsafe below 40 degrees. A 2038 home can expect well over 100 hours of safety compared to under 50 with current code. Two, efficient homes are critical for energy affordability, and by reducing peak demand statewide, they also slow the need for expensive utility infrastructure upgrades as well. See the letter for more about cost effectiveness. The letter from Habitat of Itasca County recently affirms the cost effectiveness of a lot of these strategies. This bill would take away protections from residents everywhere. There was a letter that suggested the code doesn't apply everywhere. It exists to protect the public in all parts of the state, whether or not the local jurisdiction enforces. So at the risk of sounding like my dad, we need to keep the indoors in and the outdoors out. So let's shut the door on inefficient buildings. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fowler. Your dad would be proud of that. That's good. Thank you. And thanks for keeping on time. I appreciate that. I know you had a lot to say there. Mr. Erickson, please proceed. And then also Eric Boyd, if you would come up as our final testifier. And if there's anybody else in the audience, I may ask for that too quickly. But that's all we have signed up for today. So, Mr. Erickson, welcome. Please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Nick Erickson. I'm the Senior Director of Housing Policy for Housing First Minnesota, and our mission is homeownership opportunities for all Minnesotans, and that's why I'm here today. Housing First also operates the state's largest green energy home building program, Minnesota's Green Path, which has seen to date roughly 50,000 homes tested and rated through our program here in Minnesota. On a personal note, I've sat through more than 300 hours of building code technical reviews in the last 2.5 years, so I've had to take in a lot of this over the years. Land use and zoning our testifier is right there. Land use and zoning are currently the #1 challenge in housing. However, in the next decade, especially with the legislature addressing land use and zoning this session, we will see the energy code become the #1 cost driver in Minnesota. Over the past few years, we've seen this discussion. It's been, about what this code does, what this next code does. But I'll be clear: this bill does not take away any protections, and it does not undo any work that has been done. This is about the 2038 standard. This is not about any technical review that's been done in past or recent years. This also does not stop future increases. Nothing here stops the state from adopting new energy codes going forward. In fact, this DE amendment from Representative Mecklin is a compromise to ensure that there is still new energy code adoption, but we are doing so with a homeownership-centric lens to make sure that it is affordable. Also wanted to point out that these energy codes don't actually increase housing affordability. Current mortgage lending products do not include utility payments. It is mortgage principal, interest, property taxes, insurance, and if you're in an HOA CIC setting, it would include those rates. By definition, increased construction costs decrease affordability, and energy codes do not increase housing affordability. Also, on the minimum code front, comments about only building to a minimum are false. Minnesota has a very robust utility rebate program. It is what's driving efficiency. We in Minnesota are building currently today about 20% beyond efficiency for new home construction beyond what the code requires. Getting rid of utility rebates will be what set us back, and this 2038 glide path is what will end those programs. I can hold for questions at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Erickson, very much. Mr. Boyd, welcome to the table, and please introduce yourself and continue.
Thank you, Co-Chair Baker. My name is Eric Boyd. I'm the North Region President of Arxis. We are the nation's largest firm for inspections, energy efficiency, and risk management for home builders in the United States. We operate in 28 states, and in Minnesota, we touch 58% of the homes built in Minnesota in the 9-county metro area and 1 in 7 homes built in the United States. I was an active participant in the 2012 tag, the 2021 tag, and the 2024 tag, although I wore different hats, some with the Department of Commerce and some as a member of an energy efficiency group or a representative for the builders. Before joining Arxis, I worked at the Department of Commerce, and I worked as a builder, and I've worked as a trade partner. I can see this from many different hats. This is a very difficult decision to make, but I think the thing we have to think about is what is best for Minnesota and what is best for homeowners for Minnesota. No one builds more energy efficient homes in Minnesota. We are the nation's #1 builder at scale, and we are on one of the worst codes in the United States. So to think that going above and beyond is going to help us, I think is a false statement. There has not been a case that we've seen in this 9 states that I manage where we see people go above and beyond the code that has gone in and not cost more money and caused significant delays in permits. In the state of Washington, they've adopted the 2021 IACC and gone well above and beyond it. We've seen 6-month delays, and we've seen cost increases between $10,000 and $30,000 per home for an energy code that goes well above and beyond the model code. In Kansas City, we saw where the 2024 was adopted, and it halted permits for 6 months till the point they repealed it. We see this code in Colorado, and what we're asking for is to just adopt the base model code. It's going to increase efficiency. It's going to help us, and what we need to do is let DLI and make this decision and follow the model code and steadily increase what we're trying to do, and let the builders build and let people buy homes.
Thank you very much for your testimony. You finished? I wasn't sure. Okay, yep, just want to make sure. Thank you so much for that. Anyone in the audience, again, I'm not looking for like 10 more people, but is there anybody that really has some important issue to bring up? We want to make sure that your voices are heard. Seeing none from the audience, I will close then public testimony. Thank you, everybody, for testifying today. I'm now going to move to member questions regarding the bill as amended. Members, any questions for either any of the testifiers or the author? Chair Pinto?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wondered if Eric Fowler from Fresh Energy is still in the room and could come up.
And as Mr. Fowler comes up, Mr. Chair, too, I was thinking the plan for this bill is to try to take a vote on this today to see if it moves on to the general register. We're hoping that we have this good conversation, so I'm hoping to take a vote today to members' awareness. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, and I just I was looking at the materials in the packet, and in particular the one from Fresh Energy, which is maybe about halfway through for those of us in the room with the stapled packets. I just wanted to ask you about the chart showing the comparison of the mortgage increase that comes from a stronger energy code as compared with energy bill decrease. Because there was a comment that mortgages don't take into account utility bills, but can you just sort of explain that chart and kind of how that fits with the idea that a mortgage that mortgages don't necessarily take into account utility costs?
Mr. Fowler, welcome back.
Thank you to the chair. Thank you, committee members. Yeah, happy to touch on that. The chart in that handout is specifically looking at the cost effectiveness information from Pacific Northwest National Lab, looking at the last time they did a calculation for Minnesota specifically, which was on the 2021 IECC, in which they found that mortgage payments that the code could potentially increase mortgage payments by between $10 and $16 per month, while lowering energy bills between $18 and $31 per month. And then it also contains information that the incremental upfront cost, because of course you have closing costs and whatnot, that those would increase between $351 and $556. So that is a one-time increase. And then you have those permanent savings of $18 to $31 per month, based on the energy prices as predicted at the time of that report, which of course we know as any energy costs increase, that cost effectiveness only gets better and better.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Chair Baker. And so essentially saying that the cost of ownership goes down as a result of increasing, which makes sense if you have a home that is more efficient and over time. So thank you to you. And then I wanted to see if the Department of Labor and Industry has a position on the bill and can just provide input on that. Thank you, Chair
Anybody
Baker.
here from Labor? See Josiah is here. Welcome, Mr. Moore. Thank you. Mr. Chair.
Oh, thank you. And really just asking for the agency's position on the bill. Thank you.
Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Representative Pinto, for the question. The department does have...
I want to introduce yourself, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
I know you, but not everybody knows you, Josiah, so.
Josiah Moore, Legislative Director, Department of Labor and Industry.
Thank you.
The department does have some concerns with the bill. Mainly, we are concerned about going from a energy efficiency standard in current law to an energy efficiency standard that would lead to a less energy efficient code. We're also concerned that there may be some unintended consequences with the DE on our current code adoption process. The bill has introduced struck language from statute, but the DE does introduce new language into statute prescribing how the code adoption process would have to work. So there could be some unintended consequences there. And then lastly, sorry, one moment, let me look at my notes. Lastly, I just wanted to highlight that the tag process for code adoption that we do follow does take cost into account, and that we do think that process works, and we're really able to hear from stakeholders, respond to specific cost concerns, And the Construction Codes Advisory Council actually did respond to a lot of cost concerns in their recommendations for code adoption. So just wanted to highlight that we think that process works really well to address cost concerns.
Chair Pinto?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, and thank you so much. I think, Ben, nothing needed more. And I'll just close with a comment, Mr. Chair. I'm struck by the volume of letters and submissions echoing the testimony in opposition to the bill and in support of the existing code. But more than that, just the specificity. I pointed out in my question, Mr. Erickson, the chart showing that over time this actually saves homeowners money, but also some of the details about all the other factors driving up housing costs. Just as I'm flipping through the pages, powerful information that what the updated code does is that it not only is better for our environment and addressing climate change, et cetera, but saving people money and recognizing that that's in the long run. Because, of course, our housing stock is not something that's a short-term thing. It's going to be in place for a very long time. We want to make sure that over time that we are being safe and healthy and being energy efficient as well. So I appreciate the conversation. Thank you, Representative Mecklin, for bringing it forward. I do have significant concerns, though, with the bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Co-Chair Pinto. Any comments before I go to the next comment or to the next member? Representative
If you
Mecklin?
have questions, Chair Baker, we'll keep continuing with that.
Okay, sounds good. Representative Wayne Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Representative, for bringing this forward. Do we have the first presenter still here?
Ms. Peterson?
Testifier?
Angela Peterson.
I just have some number questions.
Yep, she's coming up, so go ahead.
Hey there.
Thank you. I just was wondering, you brought up some numbers at the beginning regarding what you show as far as payback and ultimate savings and stuff like that. Can you provide those numbers again and where you provided those numbers? Because those are, I think, in stark contrast to the sheet we have here. And so I was just wondering, can you share those again and where those are?
Ms. Peterson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the question. So the numbers that I shared were that the payback, the simple payback, is 5 to 9 years, and it would save homeowners between $17,500 and $37,000 over 30 years. These are complicated numbers. There's a lot of different ways to look at them. These particular numbers came from a study recently done by Slipstream, which is another nonprofit organization that evaluated the cost for applying to the new code, the code that is currently underway in Minnesota, and then comparing that with energy savings estimates from Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, which is nationally recognized as the leader in this. In the values around these codes.
Representative Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. Can you expand on those numbers a little bit more as far as what did they use to calculate the average utility cost is in the home to begin with without it, and what it would be if they were actually implemented? Because just with my experience in being in the HVAC industry and seeing a lot of utilities and stuff like that, what the average price of electricity and gas is, what numbers did they use to calculate to the numbers that you're sharing with us?
Well, we'd have to look
Peterson.
at, yes, Mr. Chair, and thank you. The numbers, those numbers, the utility savings come from Pacific Northwest National Laboratory, so we'd have to dig into their methodology of how they do that, but they're specifically related to the climate zone 6 and 7 that we have here in Minnesota.
Representative Johnson.
I would like to see those because your numbers are impressive. They're way off of this number, but when you start taking into account if, say, the average utility cost is $300 in a house and you start going into a townhome, which is even less, smaller home has a smaller utility bill, and then all of a sudden figuring, are you going to basically eliminate all the utility costs in order to get to the numbers that you have? I just, coming from an industry that used to use the numbers to get people to upgrade to more efficient equipment. We eventually got away from that because it got to the point where you really couldn't prove it, and it was just assumptions going from a 92 to a 97, and based on your home, a townhome, you can't get payback within 5 to 7 years when you're paying thousands more for a piece of equipment. I just would like to have more regarding those numbers, what make up those numbers, and specifically what type of houses, size of houses, and how you get there. I mean, of course, the bigger the house, the easier it is to get to those numbers.
So Ms. Peterson, I don't know if that was that a question?
Yes.
Because otherwise, okay, and then I'll wrap it up.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Peterson.
So the numbers of the cost come from RS Means, which is a very commonly used bidding tool and they walked through, I think the example house was the 2,500 square foot house, which is actually significantly smaller square footage than the average new home constructed in Minnesota today. And then the PNNL numbers, I think it was right around that 2,500 square foot house with a basement that would be relatively typical for Minnesota. Like I said, it's actually smaller than a current home being built in Minnesota. And PNNL uses modeling to calculate annual savings, and then this is looking at that at a monthly basis and how that plays out over the years.
Any follow-up, Representative Johnson? Otherwise, what I'm going to ask the testifier to do, if you could, if you're looking for more information, if you could pass some of that on to the committee administrator after the meeting, we can certainly share that with others too, because I want to move on to the next one. Yeah, final follow-up.
Follow-up here. Thank you. One of the things that I would just like to follow up from a other testifier was keeping the outdoors in and the outdoors out and the indoors in, which I think is an interesting statement because there's so much money being spent now by homeowners and so much on the line of how you start bringing the outdoors in, because all these efficient homes, the more efficient you make them, the sicker you make the homes, because now we have air exchangers, even burping the home so you can open up windows to bring air in and starting to bring it in, because these homes are getting poorer and poorer air quality inside of it. Also, one last thing is just when we are discussing in housing, and as Representative Mecklen brought up, we're talking about down payments, we're talking about property insurance, we're talking about property taxes that are keeping people out from buying their homes. We're not talking about utility costs. That's not even on the radar. So, thank you.
Thank you. Representative Kozlowski.
Thank you, Chair Baker, and classic Representative Mecklen. I just want to acknowledge there's a lot of team housing members in here and folks who are coming at this from different angles, who are working together in many ways to solve the housing crisis that we have in Minnesota. I think it's under no illusions that we're in a crisis, an affordability crisis. And working on Yes to Homes and our zoning reform and a lot of the pieces in here. So just thank you for the work on that. Maybe this is a question for Fresh Energy, who was up here speaking before, but just kind of bouncing out the last point around utilities and insurance and a lot of the things that we're seeing that are contributing to the housing affordability crisis. You know, tariffs, property insurance is one of the biggest things that we're hearing. In fact, in the Housing Committee, we created a whole task force around insurance, and one of the biggest drivers of that is climate change and polluters. We've got building prices for materials, labor challenges, interest rates. But if Fresh Energy, if you would be willing to come back up, I think you were speaking to.
Mr. Fowler, could you come back up, please, and then go ahead and ask your question, please.
I guess my question is around, as you've seen these energy standards across the country, what impact have you seen on building permits? But also, are you seeing other benefits or impacts that are beyond just the pricing, but say around public health or those other livability factors?
Mr. Fowler.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Representative. I appreciate that. I'm writing down the parts of the question was around permits and
like public health. Are you seeing with less pollution that we're seeing less increases in asthma, heart attacks, those kind of climate impacts?
Mr. Fowler.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate the questions and the opportunity. There has been research by, I would point to ACEEE, American Council for an Energy Efficient Economy, as well as the Midwest Energy Efficiency Alliance for some of their research on the impact on permits. Specifically, MIA, Midwest Energy Efficiency Alliance, studied code updates in Illinois and what happened with neighboring counties in states next door that didn't have the same code update, and they did not find a difference in the number of permits and new home starts. And then, in terms of public health, I think there is quite a lot to say about the reduced emissions and quality, and maybe rather than list a bunch of studies or something, I might point folks to the letter again from Habitat Itasca County and the family that was able to move into their new 2038 standard home. So this would already be compliant with what we're looking at rolling out, not until 2038. And the asthma issues of the child in that family were greatly improved when they were able to move into this much more healthy home as well.
Representative Kozlowski, follow up?
Thank you, Chair Baker, and thank you for that. That's something that when we're looking around the true costs, insurance and utilities are actually for especially affordable homes. So I appreciate that note that you mentioned about the not seeing an increase on building permits. We know that, nationally electricity rose 6.6% last year, and we're expecting to see gas as well increase or double. And I just want to note for members that 100,000 Minnesotans had their utilities shut off in the last year to this spring. And we are facing not only an evictions crisis, but we're also seeing a number of foreclosures or people who are coming and they're able to get caught up. There might be a month or two behind a mortgage. You're able to get caught up after getting a foreclosure notice, and then they're in this game of cat and mouse where they get caught up, they get behind again, and a lot of that is the drivers that we're seeing from utility costs. So this is work that I'm grateful for Representative Kraft that goes together with our zoning and our yes to homes. And if we don't help Minnesotans on the utility, as well as for them to be able to have a clean living environment with the public health aspect, we've got to take care of it all and look at it holistically. And so for those reasons and more, I would say will not be supporting this bill, but look forward to continue to work on these issues with you.
Thank you. Representative Berg.
Sorry, just making a mess over here. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for bringing this bill forward, Representative Meckland. There are a variety of reasons that young people and all people have difficulty affording homes or to buy a first home these days, not the least of which is this disastrous economy. Which is kind of crazy because we have billions of dollars to invest in ICE and Department of Homeland Security, which is a choice because those dollars could go to helping people afford homes. Energy efficiency is not the barrier to affording homes. It is the process through which homeowners can actually save money in the long run, not to mention our planet. If we don't mitigate the climate crisis, home prices won't matter because this planet will be uninhabitable. So those, and also the numbers that you are hearing from hours and hours of reputable research and the resources available, I don't know how they're going to match the numbers on your sheet, but we have heard from the witness where the numbers came from, how true the numbers are, and I'm inclined to believe the research. So I will not be supporting this bill. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Greenman.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I
Are we okay over there on the
We're
table?
okay. We're
sounds
holding
good.
it down at 8:15.
Watch your water over there. All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I actually, as someone who's not an expert in this, but has spent some time talking to Representative Kraft and others, know from both Representative Kraft, and I think it's in the materials, that other states have adopted policies like this, including Pennsylvania, which I actually think has stricter standards. And what they saw was, at the beginning, the incremental cost that I think you're talking about, upfront costs, disappeared with a higher local energy efficiency in the market. And I'm wondering why you think that Minnesota and our great builders and workers and architects can't accomplish what other states have accomplished, which is seeing that, that upfront cost disappear.
Representative Mecklin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Representative Greenman, I do this for a living, and right now I think we have 3 projects where the homeowners are opting to put in more accelerated energy efficiency because they can afford it. It does cost more. Spray foam costs more than bad insulation. It's a plain and simple fact. But when you start mandating things, things get far more expensive. We talk about return on investment. You can't get a return on investment when you can't, if you can't buy the property in the first place, because there's no way to save money in a house. It is what you do not live. So I am not against increasing the energy efficiency of a building envelope by any means. However, mandating it, forcing many people to not even be able to afford to get into it is not necessarily the greatest plan, particularly when, for some reason, our state seems to have very escalated costs of homeownership compared to neighboring states. There's one of the national builders can build the exact same house here they can in Indiana, and it's over $100,000 cheaper in Indiana for the exact same product. What we're doing is not helping people achieve homeownership. And this is, if people can afford it, that's great. I totally, and actually I enjoy it. I enjoy learning about all the new technologies and new stuff. I will say though, in my own house, and I have a lot of light bulbs in my house, and I went and bought LED light bulbs, and I bought an air source heat pump. And while it does save money, I will never live long enough to get the return on that air source heat pump for the additional cost it cost me. That's just reality. But it also gives me the ability to shift back and forth. So sometimes I'm using fuel, sometimes I'm using electrical. I'm concerned about this particular policy when some of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle are pushing for electrification of all electric cars. So if your electric use is going to keep going up, because if you may invest in an electric car, you may swap out your gas water heater to electric. How are you judging the baseline if their power consumption is going down? I don't even understand how this is possible. If you say you got to reduce your energy use, but you're adding more energy consumption by switching from a gas appliance to electric appliance, I haven't figured out how they're going to make that rationale, comparatively speaking. Like I said, if people want to do this, do it. But mandating it will make it more expensive. It does. Because you don't have a choice. You have to do it now because the government said so.
Representative Greenman, follow up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, I didn't hear an answer, which is why other states have seen, as they have adopted these standards, and frankly stricter standards, they have seen the disappearance of that upfront marginal cost. And what concerns me is, I understand from a builder's perspective why you wouldn't be thinking about the long term, about those utilities costs. The builders aren't paying the 20 years of utilities that homeowners are. And so when we talk about affordability, I understand why the builders, and we have a pretty consolidated market, I believe, in Minnesota, and so there's also a profit margin issue, but why the builders would say all we're focusing on is that upfront ticket price. But somebody who's paying their utilities every month, money is fungible, right? If you get $12 more on your mortgage and $18 less on your utility bill, that's not going to help the builder, but that certainly will help the homeowner. And so I think members, as it relates to both affordability, also good policy, and just when we're talking about the things that are driving up costs, I mean, I think it's great that you switch to electric because we are right now at war with Iran, and as we see fossil fuel prices go through the roof, that's not a cost that Minnesotans can budget for. Or as we see tariffs that are, I know, driving up building costs, that's also not something that Minnesotans feel like they can have control over. But having an energy efficient home where you are using less energy and your utility bill is going down, that is something that you can price in. So members, this is a bad bill. I think it's bad for affordability, and I think we should all vote no.
Final quick, Representative Wayne Johnson, back at you. Wrap up.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to comment on that this is an affordability issue, because I can tell you, as a builder or as a HVAC contractor, you love to put in more efficient equipment because it's that much more expensive. And the more expensive the equipment is, the higher margins you get to charge. And especially if the homeowner is told, you have no choice. You have no choice at this cheaper one and this one. So this is actually a win for builders, and they can make a lot more money because you're forcing them to do it. They're buying a lot more, and the margins are there. So that's why it is an affordable issue. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Again, I think I'm going to go to closing comments now at this point. Again, I've asked members, we are going to take a vote on this. So I'd like to move this along. This is an important issue. Again, there's two sides to this. I have many people in my district that are also fighting to try to get out of their rental properties. They want to buy their own place. They are just begging to do it. These are very, very important decisions that we try to make while we are in session to try to help not only keep our homes efficient and in Minnesota climate, and it sounds like with testifiers, Minnesota does a terrific job already. The affordability issue is real. Property taxes has come up, insurance costs, other things, and they're real. I just know when we see around the state, this is one of the small things we can do to try to elevate that. Again, I appreciate you bringing the bill forward. I'll let you wrap things up before I take the vote with the members. So,
Mr. Chair, my apologies.
I'm sorry.
Roll call request.
Roll call requested. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So with that, Representative Shane Mecklen, would you please final up your bill as amended?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Like I said, you know, in late 1999 to 2001, somewhere there, Minnesota adopted the build it tight, ventilate it right methodology. As somebody mentioned, the air quality inside a home today is 80 to 100 times worse than the outside ambient air. A microbiologist, immunologist, with a gentleman that lives in my district, he did a massive study about 20 years ago on asthma, because that was mentioned by Representative Kozlowski. And ironically, what he found is kids that grow up on a farm, particularly with livestock, never get asthma. Interesting study. So there's a lot of things that go into it. As I think Representative Johnson mentioned, we do use these air-to-air exchangers that became mandated back then to try to improve the air quality inside of a very tight envelope. I can assure you from working on homes, the homes that didn't have house wrap, just maybe a tar paper underneath the siding, the wood sheathing is in much better shape. We don't always make the right decisions going forward. So I'm looking at this from an affordability standpoint, and again, I'm going to renew my motion, Chair Baker, to House File 3545 as amended to be moved to the General Register, and I believe Chair Pinto called for a roll call. Thank you.
Yep, that is correct, and thank you for that. With a roll call being requested, that will be done. I'll have the CLA take the roll call. The chair will vote aye.
Chair Pinto.
No.
Vice Chair Mecklen.
Aye.
Vice Chair Greenman.
No.
Representative Bakeberg.
Yes.
Representative Berg.
No.
Representative Frazier.
No.
Representative Hussein.
No.
Representative Johnson Pete.
No.
Representative Johnson Wayne.
Aye.
Representative Kozlowski.
No.
Representative Mueller.
Mueller votes yes.
Representative Schultz.
Schultz, aye.
Representative Zalesnikar.
Selesnikar, aye.
All right, thank you, members, for the vote. We have a 7-7 tie, so the motion today, the bill as presented, is not adopted and passing, so we'll lay this bill on the table. With that, thank you very much for your testifying today, and you're bringing the bill forward to the testifiers as well.